Okay, hi, I'm back. Thank you for your patience. What did I miss? Well, I've got this med bay now. Oh no, this med bay is on my little warehouse. There are a few chips left in the bag, so please excuse me while I crunch. Spicy jalapeno. Tim's. Naturally and artificially flavored, which I'm not a big fan of. I prefer natural flavors, but on the other hand, I'm eating them. My general attitude toward artificial flavors and unhealthy food is, if you're going to eat it, then enjoy it. And if it's going to produce more anxiety enjoying it, eating it or not, then just don't. Or do, or whatever. Let's hear it for kids who grew up with a lot of guilt around eating. I was never allowed to have sugar. Which in a way I'm kind of glad about now. I'm trying to figure out where to place this. It ends up looking like that. That seems to be the coolest. So putting my jump drive in between these two gauges. I don't know, did it end up like this? I feel like there's supposed to be one more set of hydrogen tanks, but maybe not. Anyway, I used to eat a lot of sugar. Like cookies every single day. And then at a certain point in life, I just sort of lost my taste for it. And now I have more of a taste for savory, unsweetened stuff. I guess the point I was trying to make earlier is that, the health aspect, if you're gonna eat something that's quote unquote unhealthy, if you're, anxiety about sort of choosing your foods and all of that kind of stuff, there's a potential for that to be more unhealthy than the actual, eating of unhealthy food. In other words, it's okay to enjoy unhealthy food sometimes. And it's probably a good idea to avoid it for, continual general use. I'm a fan of just one ingredient, apple. And on the other hand, here I am eating Tim's. Spicy jalapeno. I am trying to design, just some kind of cool looking shape for the back and not just make it look like a square right here. Trying to de-brick the shape a bit. Or unbrick. Okay, last chips in the bag. Here goes. Excellent. Look at here, just making some, trying to come up with some ideas for making the ship look not square, basically. In a nutshell, that is what I'm doing. And also trying to make it pressurizable. Stand by one more second. I made some tea. I'm going to go get it. I am back. Just trying to make this look interesting. Try to create some texture. On the ship with some lines that look like they were, you know, designed and built. And I'm trying a few different things for this. Don't really remember what I landed on. It was not that. And you know, it's funny, I do actual professional audio work on the Mac, but this computer is so unfamiliar to me, and you know, I just haven't really bothered to, you know, do anything in the studio side. So I'm doing it all in here with just basic, like, open source video editing software and audio software like Audacity and OBS. And, you know, shout out to open source programmers. I really like to use open source when I can. Big fan of Linux. Not great at programming, but I understand the basics. Excuse me. And yeah, I think this microphone's not great. It doesn't have great sound quality, and I'm trying to get it so that, you know, every time I exhale, it doesn't blow into the mic. And I'm also realizing I'm having to really, really boost the sound of everything in the recording, and I'm not sure why, because I have it at a pretty reasonable level, like in the meters. And then, but then I end up having to, you know, not only compress, but like way, way boost the makeup gain. So it's not ideal, and the sound quality is not great. At some point, I'll probably buy a nicer microphone to do this. One that's just dedicated for the PC. And also kind of stupidly or kind of annoyingly, I have my audio interface uses that Thunderbolt USB-C Mac version that also carries power. And I don't think it works. I don't think it works at all on a PC. Like, I can't even plug it into my PC, which I didn't realize when I bought it. It's kind of dumb. You can see the ship is starting to, you know, take on a little bit of a personality, which is pretty much my goal for these. Just make a cool ship. And try to get it to a point that it's finished, with all the components named and, you know, stuff basically working. And then in the workshop, so that hopefully somebody can, you know, if they find it, they can use it or learn from it or upgrade it or whatever they want to do. That's the goal. Still not sure what I'm exactly trying to do here. Oh well, clearly downward thrusters. I keep accidentally deleting that hydrogen tank. So yeah, downward and maybe upward thrusters are going to go right there. Yeah, I guess I ended up only having 4 total hydrogen tanks, which is actually quite a lot. You can go for quite a while on a planet or in space with that many hydrogen tanks. And then it also can process ice into hydrogen pretty fast. Like, not fast enough that if you're just like flying, it would keep your tank full, but if you stop to rest, you could refill pretty quickly, I think. So I'm just trying to build thrusters in a way that looks, you know, that just makes the ship look cool. My entire goal with this one is just to make a cool looking ship. One that I would want to actually, you know, go into my survival world and build. I have to design, maybe at some point I'll do a series like building this ship from, you know, a survival world. And, you know, kind of building some kind of custom printer for it. I don't know, I'm, you know, pretty new to this, so oops. Let me know in the comments if there's something you'd like to see, or, you know, as you can see, this is kind of it, like building ships, which I think is pretty personal. If you like them, you like them. If you don't, you're probably not going to keep watching for very long. not fully remembering what I did here. But it looks like I'm, oh yeah, I think I'm doing staggered for the side thrusters and the up and down thrusters. I was trying to decide on some kind of interesting looking pattern. We've got 4. We've got 8 up, 8 down, 4 on each side, and then 2 large going backward, or rather 2 large going forward. And I think I end up trying to put in 6 reverse. Probably be better to do 8. I don't remember what I did. Designing things in creative mode especially, I use a lot of that mod for easy block renaming and try to make these all, so I'm just doing a basic version of, some kind of shape, and then we'll eventually use more custom looking blocks. Oops. Nice. That looks good. Right? Let's try to make something that looks, intentional and built and not too exposed. Somewhat protected from, smashing it against the side of an asteroid or getting shot at. Like I said before, I'm not that into doing combat, but if anyone wants to, jump on and test this ship and see how it does, I think it ends up having an AI flight and an AI defensive. Oops. So you could probably put a couple of, basic tasks in there and have it autopilot somewhere and see how it handles either on its autopilot in some kind of combat or by, actually flying it. So I can delete all this stuff and kind of start over. Because those round type blocks don't really stick in the same way that some of the more square ones do. Oops, ow. Bit of redundancy. And I think I forgot to turn on symmetry, so I have to do the same thing on the other side. Just trying a few things to try to make it look cool. I wanted to keep a little bit of that jump drive exposed. Trying to blend these sections of the ship to the outside part of this engine room section coming forward to the hangar. Just trying a few different shapes. See if I find one that sticks or one that I like. It's a little after midnight here. I usually go to bed somewhere between midnight and 2. Sometimes much later, and sometimes much earlier. I've like always been in the habit of having a somewhat irregular sleep schedule. And then I think it became even more irregular during the pandemic. I'm just trying to create some, some interesting looking lines on this ship. Just find ways to make it look, look it cool or look interesting or whatever. I usually don't have like a very specific idea in mind when I start out. Kind of more general. Or like building around or starting with a certain feature. I think that looks pretty nice. I'm just trying to add more textures, less smooth lines. A lot of my first ships were, kind of very smooth. Like I tried to get the transition every time. And I was trying, deliberately to, on this one, just kind of create more textures. And I'm just experimenting here to try to get some level of those textures that I'm satisfied with. Sometimes just not really knowing what that is even till I see it. I don't usually know at the beginning, so I'm just experimenting with shapes until I find something I like. That's pretty much it. And just learning how how that's coming together. I think I eventually make that a little bit more even with, oh no. I don't leave it like that. At least I hope not. Whew, thank goodness. Yeah, I don't think that's quite right either, but eventually I'll get it just kind of the same as the other ones, I think. Yeah, just trying to make more textures here. Building out the little sort of wing. It's meant to have a cool design and also to protect the thruster a little bit. I'm building. I think I'm thinking about trying to put some reverse thrusters in here. Not totally sure. Or maybe I'm just designing. How to make this all connect. I usually put my blocks all in kind of that, mostly that order, even for creative mode or in any game. My first toolbar looks like that. And in creative, maybe I'll replace the drill with paint gun, because you don't really use the drill in creative mode. But you might sometimes use the grinder or the welder. I'm just trying to make some bigger, sort of more support looking blocks in here and making this sort of staggered texture just to try to create a more interesting shape. Debating on keeping that visible or not, but on the bottom, might as well cover it up and use it for protection. So that's what I'm doing here, just coming along the bottom side. I think I end up trying to make it more or less like the same as the top. I'm using all these shapes to kind of hide the squareness around the thruster. I think it turned out pretty nice. Just sort of having all these elements that are kind of leading your eye away from that big that big square gap between the thruster and all the blocks. Just sort of dazzling the eye with cool spaceship shapes. I think I ended up trying to put a window here, and then a thruster right above it. So for one, you have just something to look out of from the engine room, and for two, you're also able to look out at this thruster, which I think ended up kind of cool. And it's a feature that I'm sort of realizing I want to add into all my ships. Just experimenting here with trying to figure out how thin I can make the wall and still pressurize. I don't remember what I ended up with. Not sure if it's this. But again, the goal is just to sort of distract the eye a little bit from, the fact that we're basically using a bunch of cubes. Try to kind of visually create a sense of, suspending disbelief. It's so funny pulling those and having them fall. Yeah, it turns out I went up there a little bit, so there's a lot of extra room. Here I'm building up the airlock. And again, trying to use those interior blocks kind of strategically, just to add a little bit of design bit of style. Sci-fi interior block. You're just replacing a few armor blocks with other things. This is sort of the very beginning of trying to make a nice looking hangar. I might have gone AFK here for a minute. I'm not sure what I'm doing. Oh, here we go. Oh, I think what I'm doing here is I'm turning it sideways. And that'll just leave a little bit more room. Like basically half a block on each side. Because the hangar doors. So instead of being 5, instead of holding a ship that's 5 blocks long, it can hold a ship that's like maybe 6 blocks. Which in the world of small grid ships, that makes a big difference. Because 1 block in large grid is the same as 5 blocks in small grid. And of course, Space Engineers 2 is already out. I have it, I owned it, and I bought it to, support the developers and all of that, but I haven't really played it yet. I think we're currently getting really close to the survival mode version of the game. That's probably when I'll start playing. I haven't done much, even, building in creative mode on Space Engineers 2 yet. So I'm pretty much sticking to this. I'm just trying to make a decision about how to come out to this connector. Oh, I think this is the one where I added a piston. This is the one where I added a piston. It's kind of fun. And there's an event controller for it that, when you stand on it, or a sensor rather, when you stand on it, it shoots the piston out. And that's, that's not really that useful, but you could easily make it pretty useful, I think, with maybe one extra, an extra event controller and a timer or something like that. I think you'd have to, let's see, how would it work? I don't know. Right now it just extends the piston when you get on it and retracts the piston when you get off it. That's all I had the energy for. And up until now I've had, I think I'm trying to just do, less and less entrances into my ship just to have sort of, the first one I had all kinds of entrances and it wasn't that big of a ship. And so yeah, of course here I'm just trying to finally make it pressurizable. And it looks like there's about 40 minutes left of this video. I said, I think this is one of the longer ones from this ship, or maybe the longest, the longest one from this ship. And probably this video ends when I get all this pressurized. Hopefully not just in this room, because that'll be a long, slow 40 minutes. But... So I was trying to avoid, on that, I was trying to avoid having that seam. And so here I'm just trying to, decide how to transition out of that window. Checking for air tightness. I think I wasn't sure about the jump drive. I'm pretty sure that the jump drive is totally airtight on all sides, even if it doesn't look like it. I did notice there are a couple of blocks, I don't remember exactly which ones, but there are a couple that are, even when they're visibly, like you can see, the air and the outside world on the other side of it, but they're still airtight. I think there are a couple like that. I don't remember now which ones. I noticed it on another ship that I was building. Not in any way that's like bothersome or buggy. It's just noticeable if you look for it. Yeah, so you're just trying to create outer walls along this, walkway level to make it pressurizable. So I ended up having a corridor, I think, on either side. Or maybe it was one of those half-wall passageway things. Don't remember which at the moment. Maybe it was that. Yeah, I'm using the passage side, I think, to get past those pesky hydrogen tanks. Finally ended up covering the jump drive. Just come all the way forward. Don't think I ended up with that. Oops. Yeah, it's pretty entertaining. I mean, I'm not sure what to say right now. I'm just basically experimenting. Trying to create some kind of meaningful and airtight passageway. Pretty sure that this is not what I wound up with. But I'd be curious if anyone, who's watching this, like, see some idea that I did that I scrapped and like, wait, I wanted you to do that. probably won't, but I'd be curious to know. And hopefully that you would also be able to be inspired to, follow me to a certain point and then, go off on your own and do that thing. And hopefully, bring some more cool ships into the world. So here I'm coming out, just looking at it from the outside, trying to get a sense visually of, what it might need or what might help to make it look better. I think at some point I shift that window either forward or back, I don't remember which. Maybe it's happening right now. I'm just tapering the window in. And just kind of trying to find blocks that match when possible. Let's see, I was saying before, I think those are my 7 blocks because I always have that on my keypad 7. And the ones next to it are my 5 blocks. These are all 7s. I'm scrolling through now. More 7s. That's always a good one. One of my favorites. I don't think it's quite right. Might be adjusting this one too. Yeah, I probably will just push that forward. That's a 5 block. Looking pretty nice. Finding the right. And just kind of making it symmetrical around the window. Try to shape the cockpit around that. But that's not going to work. So let's go back to what we had. 7 block, please. There it is. Yep. Doesn't quite look right. I think we eventually change it another time or two. I think that's an oxygen or a hydrogen tank. I think I eventually swap it out and put an oxygen tank there. I don't fully remember. I think I'm about to add another one. Or maybe I don't do that until later. I don't remember what happens here. Or is this the one where I have 3 oxygen tanks? No. I'm building out for a med bay. And possibly a cryo. But here's the med bay. Deciding where to put it. Too close. Way too close. Probably just right. Eventually, maybe push that forward or something to make a little extra room for some living quarters type stuff. It's a pretty nice little medical area around back of the bridge. So here I think I'm just transferring this over to just one side. I'm not sure what's happening there. Maybe it's going to be the air vent? Or maybe I'm just piping down. I'm not sure what I'm doing there yet. Oh yeah, I'm making a cryo. And I'm just showing here that there's, on that basic one, there's conveyors only on the back. This one has bottom only, and then this lab vat one has it on top. And you can see there's a little word down on one side. And that's my favorite looking cryo chamber, I think. The coolest looking one. So I have that just right on the other side of the airlock. And then other stuff will fill in right there. And I think that can even house a refill station, right? Yeah. So put in the inset refill station. And that makes a nice little airlock. Come through into our med bay area, approaching the bridge. Alright, I decided on a cargo terminal instead of the refill station because there's a med bay right there, so you don't really need a refill station that close to a med bay. Medical room, to use the precise name. Still got that merge block there. I think it ends up leaving the front and maybe moving toward the back if I kept it in at all. I don't remember, excuse me, that might have been loud. There's my finger touching the mic, sorry. We've got about 30 minutes left in this video, so I think what I ended up doing was like kind of getting the basic, basic functional stuff in and pressurizing the whole thing and then shutting down. Here I'm adding a bathroom and shower. The bathroom or toilet and shower are nice together because the shower has this kind of thing that winds in at a corner, so you can kind of put them together nicely, create a little privacy. And it's nice that it's right next to the med bay and the cryo. You just, wake up or go get yourself treated and then take a bath and have a nice poo. I don't know if space engineers actually poo, or if they just sit on the toilet. And I don't need to know. I would rather respect their privacy. And so yeah, here I think I am actually going to push this, maybe even the entire cockpit forward. Or yeah, the entire cockpit, cabin. Not really sure what to call it. I think on a boat it would be called a cabin. Like sort of the indoors part of the ship. Which I call the front part, like kind of the bridge and sort of living quarters / med bay type area. I call the cabin, and I don't know if that's correct. But basically with that, we've got cabin going back into a hangar, and then going back into an engine room. So 3 separate sections of the ship. With the ability, I don't know why, but that's so high. Does not work there, definitely. Not sure what I was doing. You could add just big flat windows here. out of energy, so my light went off. It's a little bit annoying building in survival mode with creative tools. You have to kind of think about the game a little bit more. But maybe that helps. Big mess of pipes. I think I'm gonna hopefully get that window back down a level as soon as possible. Thank God. So I'm trying to find a place to put a kitchen up in this area, this forward section. I'm just trying to make a little bit of a living quarters situation that makes sense. Gotta have a bookshelf, gotta have an aquarium. That bookshelf one also has that little espresso bar thing, which is kind of nice. And so yeah, I think there's about 25, 30 minutes left of this video. I'm honestly getting kind of tired. I'm gonna try to make some kind of entertaining or instructional comments while watching this. It's pretty fun to watch. At least for me. But then I am biased, I guess. Back into the engine room. Just trying to make some decisions about these and what kind of interior wall to use. Oh yeah, batteries. Batteries are airtight. Oh, I think this is the one that I was thinking of. The Warfare battery. You can like see through it in pretty large gaps, but it is definitely airtight. And by pretty large, I mean only that they're large enough to see through. They're not really that large. Armory. I think I screwed up and put I added an extra one or something. Something was weird there. And here I'm just trying to decide what to put where. Not totally sure right now, but I think maybe I ended up trying to put a cargo container up here somewhere. Or maybe not, maybe it's just the kitchen right here. Again, I don't remember exactly what I did. I feel like maybe though I pushed it forward one more, just to make room for this stuff. Gotta have a bookshelf, gotta have an aquarium. Espresso bar. Kitchen. You can get on the other side of that. I'm wondering what that looks like. I don't think I ended up leaving it there, but still, I'm a little bit disappointed that I didn't look at the other side with the narrow gap. I think I ended up putting up a few event controllers and timer blocks up here. And maybe putting a refill station in the hangar. Refill stations are interesting because they're pretty simple and useful, but they also do require, what is it, gold? Because you have to have, I think it's superconductors to build them. You're just looking for a place for a down connector, which is a way to, it's a convenient way to pipe you know, to pipe something, kind of place it at an L point in your conveyor line. Not exactly sure what I'm doing here. I guess just running forward. That might be just running forward to the... I'm not sure. Is that running forward to all the med bay stuff? Oh no, it's running forward just right to the hangar. Just that. Now, I don't remember if what I did here, if I ended up doing something in the floor like that, or went a little bit lower and covered up all that piping underneath. Pretty nice looking ship so far. Gotta keep replenishing my energy in this one. Sort of a hybrid build. Mostly in just creative mode. Other than the fact I have to keep replenishing my energy. I like to paint red for life support stuff. Like cryo chambers and med bays. Survival kits. And H2 generators. Oxygen tanks, that kind of stuff. Maybe hydrogen tanks, but usually a different color for those, just because I don't want to get everything too bright and sort of rainbowy colored. Not rainbowy, but more like primary colors, which are the default ones in the game. And apparently the designer likes when people use primary colors, or sort of the default colors for the game, for ships, because I think that they say that it, I don't know, creates some kind of uniformity even among a bunch of different builders. I don't know. I don't know if I buy that. I think that sort of maybe unfortunately discourages people from finding, you know, even cooler colors. And it would be nice to support, you know, some kind of palette, you know, being able to save your palettes and save and recall it, or rather save and load your palettes, color palettes. It seems a little weird to restrict. At the same time, I do get why they would feel that way. But I'm not sure if I think it's right to, you know, add those kinds of, you know, creative restraints on end users. Just sort of seems a little arbitrary. And that said, I generally just do use the original default colors. Sometimes I'll make a new one and, you know, add it in for an accent or something, but I think my only one where I used non-default colors was my GK2, which I'm not sure if I have posted in the workshop yet. I'll put it up at some point. I do not have a video for that one, or for GK1, which are both pretty interesting ships that I did actually complete. GK2 is a bit bigger. It was influenced, you know, it's the... I copied off of YouTuber Cy Prime for a little while, and then kind of continued on my own building that ship, sort of based on the very beginning idea that he had. And right here I'm just trying to make a design for the tail end of the ship. I'm trying to come up with something that looks cool. that's quite it yet, though. We do get there eventually. Sometimes takes a while. Keep going. Eventually you get there. Words of wisdom to live by. Yeah, I'm trying to just make these sort of mostly the same. Top and bottom. With like a wider, more sort of structural piece on either side of the thrusters, and then a bit of a narrower, kind of smaller piece that's around the thrusters directly. That's just strictly to make it look interesting and add a little bit of armor protection. Looks good from the back. That part's eventually going to change. Don't remember how it changes. Alright, maybe I put a door in there. Yeah, I was trying out the big thruster in the middle idea. It looks cool, but not much point. Sticks out a little too far. And again, not much point. Like, you're not going to have that many thrusters in reverse, so there's no point in having that many there. It'll just make it harder to slow down. And if you want to, take off quickly, you should be using your hydrogen thrusters anyway. So, yeah, no need. I think I ended up having just a small, narrow half door on one side. Sort of a non-airlocked maintenance entrance. I think I may have ended up doing something like that with... I don't remember where the thrusters ended up. Having it there would mean no entrance. Don't think I kept it. Well, that looks pretty cool. It doesn't leave any way to get in. Option to add in some Atmos. Trying to make it just enough so that it limps along. I'm pretty sure that none of this is it yet. That looks okay. Sort of trying to design around those big thrusters and try to make the ship look like it makes sense. I think there's going to end up being an Atmo there. Maybe a flat one. Flat. Thruster coming in line with those hydros, right above the window, so it'll look cool, from the inside looking out, while that thing's thrusting, or whatever you want to call it. It's kind of cool that you can see it from there. You'll see the, exhaust trail or whatever that is. I'm just filling up on energy. Got about 10 minutes left of this section of the build, and we're getting pretty close to a, just pretty much a completed hull shape. And honestly, this is about the quickest I've ever, gotten a ship kind of into, up to this point, up to this level, so quickly. And I think it's partly because of the fact that I started with a shape and a sort of a hull, and then sort of building stuff around it, rather than starting from components and building out your shape around the components that you already have. Here I'm looking at reverse thrust again. I eventually put them in. I think I'd forgot at some point. Eventually it'll look a little better than that. Maybe even in these next 10 minutes. Now it's 10 minutes. It was like 11 or 12 minutes before. Now it's 10. I'm just kind of trying to figure out how to add a few more thrusters in this. A few more reverse thrusters, rather, in this little section right here. And then maybe to combine it around to the side connector. So that everything's piped. I think it takes a few tries to get these where I want them. This is the prototype version. Looking pretty cool already. I know at some point I got rid of that double ridge on top of the hanger. Trying to decide what kind of thruster you can even use there. Nice little reverse atmos. 6 of them. I think right now we've only got 3 going forward, so that's probably not ideal. Oops, I don't think I meant to do that. I think I'm trying to find a place to put some ion thrusters. Considering putting them a little higher, I'm going to add a line of ion thrusters underneath. I think. Maybe not. This looked really cool though. I ended up being proud of this ship. Did I share the name already? I don't remember if I did or not. Because I have already, completed the ship and done this whole, recorded this entire series. So I'll be releasing them, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 a week. Try to create some kind of, content schedule or whatever. Build a few more. And then maybe at some point go back into a survival world and use this to explore, go build bases on other planets and stuff. Oh, goodness gracious, I'm tired. So this is just coming around. Again, trying to make some texture. Finding places to add thrust. I'm trying to, of course, sort of continue that same, or similar pattern that we have with the other gaps. Oops. Trying to make it all make sense. I think that looks pretty nice. So you got 4 on the side. I think I ended up trying to make them equal with the ion ones. I don't remember right now for sure. I think we're going to get to that any minute. So I'm just trying to find the right contour, the right line that makes this whole thing look, like it's built, like it has big structural supportive beams in certain strategic places and kind of more thinner or more, whatever, supportive. I was just trying to make some textures in the ship. Thinking about heat vents. I think I put a couple of heat vents on the sides. And here just again trying to make some consistent patterns, following on the bottom what I did on the top. Yeah, there we go. Oh no, those are ions. See, I'm trying to put them on the bottom now. Okay, so yeah, they're going in the top. At some point, I think we have to add in some downward pointing thrusters as well. Downward thrusting thrusters. But I'm not totally remembering what I did. Okay, this big, more armored spots. And just covering up everything with armor. Trying to make it look intentional. It's looking pretty cool to me so far. And I think we're pretty close to the end of the video. I keep practically falling over in my chair. Yeah, only a couple minutes left. And we'll pause somewhere in this process where it's feeling mostly done to me, like mostly I've got the details and the blocks, kind of where I want them. Just trying to finish an idea before I close up the shop. It's looking super nice. And then like that was in just sort of one pretty long marathon stretch of 2 hours and 39 minutes and 51 seconds. It was not quite exactly that time. Probably cut off some things or, trim some things from the beginning and all of that, but probably about 2.5 hours, which is faster than probably any of the ships I've built to this point. And the rest, I don't know, I think maybe a couple of other videos where I'm, refining it. I might spend a whole one just naming it, which is super boring. But I end up doing that, like I'll start naming blocks and then making off camera and then making a big change. And I'll be like, I didn't record that. So here I'm considering moving these reverse thrusters back a bit, I think. Or maybe not. I think we eventually put a piston on those side connectors. Pretty sure I'm pausing out here. Zooming out to take a look. Ow. Heal up. And logging out. Alright, I'll see you all next time, everybody. Thanks for watching.